Kiss 92.
Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's edition of The Big Show. It is the big show. So we had 6 people in the studio. Now we have 7 people in the studio because our award-winning psychologist from the therapy room, Dr. Geraldine Tan, is in the flesh.
Yes.
Right here in the studio. Good morning, Jerry.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Wow, we can hear her loud and clear today.
The audio is fantastic.
Isn't it?
Good to have you here with us.
Yeah, so excited to have you in the flesh.
Very glad to be here, but I chose a rainy morning to be here.
We chose a really serious topic today as well.
I know.
Yes.
Despite all the cheeriness in the studio, the topic today is about suicide.
Yes.
Was there a reason you chose suicide today?
Since last week we were talking about depression, and many people were complaining that the sound system wasn't good and everything. So I was like, oh, okay. So I thought I wanted to make up for another really serious topic, which is very important also. And this is a topic that I wanted to talk about for many years, but everybody says it's a taboo topic. So I'm so happy that all of you are like, okay, let's just do it.
I think
Glenn was kind of afraid at the
Glenn didn't look at it till this morning.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
But I do think it is something that we need to address, talking about taboo things. If as radio DJs we don't take responsibility about talking about the hard stuff, then I feel like who is going to,
Is there an increase in numbers of the people committing suicide?
I mean, SOS just came out with the numbers, right? So last year was 476. Let's note down the numbers here. Yeah. So, and it had been an increase from the years before. Geriatric suicide had been up also significantly.
Right.
Youths also have been, the numbers have increased quite significantly.
So it's the youths and the older people.
Yes.
Barely the people in between.
I
I'm sure there are some, but more so.
Yeah. We've been talking about the youth, the kids who have,
Taken their lives.
I find it so hard to even say it.
Yeah.
But since you mentioned the geriatrics, right? Let's touch on that first.
Yep.
Why do the older people commit suicide?
Let's look at the different types of suicide.
Okay.
And then that would help us to make a little bit of sense, right? So we know suicide is intentionally taking your own life. So there are 4 different types of suicide. One is the egoistic suicide, which is when someone feels like they are an outcast. Those that are being bullied, those that are being harassed, those that are not integrated into society.
Wait, hold on. That's a real term? Egoistic suicide?
well-
Is that real or did you just make it up?
No.
So what about
Emil
Egoistic
Durkheim
suicide.
came up with 4 different levels or 4
Okay.
different types of suicide.
Interesting.
So that's one of the suicide. The next one is altruistic. Altruistic is when they are too integrated into a community. So that's when you have mass suicide. So we have those cults.
cults.
Yes.
Yeah, the cults.
Okay.
Yes. Anomic suicide is that sudden change in circumstances and they cannot accept.
Handle it.
So you have those, if we recall the Great Depression, where people lost their money, and they cannot take that situation. So
Yeah.
they end their lives.
Let's not go too far. I mean, in the 80s, we had a really bad recession. There were a few people who took their lives here in Singapore as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then the last one is fatalistic. So those that are, they feel like they're being kept in a stranglehold, or they feel like they are
In a
being
tough
pushed to a
situation.
corner. So we know like the Korean K-pop stars.
Yeah.
Where they
A lot
feel
of them.
like they have to adhere to so many things. They feel that they cannot manage anymore.
Or even people in an awful relationship as well.
Yes.
That would be it. Okay.
Yes, and prisoners of war also.
Yeah.
You see many of them taking their own lives. They rather do that than
Face.
Suffer the
continue.
PTSD.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. That looks kind of weird. The last one. Fatalistic suicide.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's like
suicide
an
is already
oxy-
fatal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jerry has highlighted 4: egoistic suicide, altruistic suicide, anomic suicide, and fatalistic suicide. Let's continue to talk about this on the Big Show TV, and then we'll come back on the radio once again. Meantime, here's my Coiler Ray and David Guetta. Make My Day on Kiss 92.
My coilery.
My Coiler Ray.
Okay, so should we delve deeper?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask Glenn since he was taking notes.
Yeah, he's the only one.
I see him taking notes.
He's the only one that has the
Wow.
pen in the studio.
Because
That's
you're
why he's
here,
taking
you see,
notes.
I'm at it.
Today is
Virtual, I'm at
This
home.
is just showing off. What we're here
Virtual, I'll be here, like just sitting down.
Having his coffee.
But now you're here.
No, he's-
like my lecturer. Like.
Ayo.
But is there a reason you are taking notes?
No, only
Just to
because
be-
There's a list.
Only because I've never heard that there are different types of suicide. So when
yeah.
she mentioned egoistic suicide, I'm like, huh?
No, and when she said different types of suicide, I thought different ways to die.
Oh, no, there's
Do
many
you know what
ways,
I
more
mean?
than 4 ways
that
to
was,
die.
That was my simplistic
Yes,
thought, but I
yes,
didn't
yes.
realize the causes behind it.
And
Yes.
who would come up with these 4?
Emil Durham.
Emil Durham.
Durham.
Okay.
Emil Durham.
Okay.
I hope I pronounced
I've heard
his
of
name.
Bull Durham.
Emil Durham.
Different this
No,
one.
different guy.
Wasn't that Kevin Costner? That movie.
Yes, so since you've written it down, where do the geriatric suicides fall under?
Oh, wow.
I would say
Anomic?
ego or fatalistic.
Anomic? I still don't know.
Perhaps you're not wrong.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, it could be egoistic as well, right?
Yeah.
Because
Egoistic or fatalistic because either they feel like there's no way out or there's no way to, especially if they have quality of their quality of life
Life
is
issues.
low.
Yes, you're
you know,
right.
If you have a lot of
Yeah.
issues, a lot of problems, then you feel like
Yeah.
every day you wake up is like you're just facing more pain.
Yeah.
And also egoistic would be like you're outcast from the family
Yes.
and nobody wants to
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
after you.
because I mean, your whole life, you may have been like really active and all that, and all of a sudden,
So
Yeah.
hard.
And also a lot of that generation that's like older now, they lived to make sure that we could have a life that we wanted. You know, there were no creatives in the time of like the generation above
Yeah.
us. And now that we're all thriving, we're all doing our stuff, it's easy to forget for them to feel like they've lost purpose maybe. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And connection.
Which is why I mean, for the older ones who are tuning in right now, I think they've probably figured it out already. But you know, I mean, as we grow older, it's so important to take better care of ourselves.
Yes.
You
and
know,
be a bit selfish, you know, like do things
Yeah.
you want to do.
because you know, I
Yeah.
mean, if you stay healthy, you know, not only do you benefit from that, your family benefits as
And
well.
I think also being independent, because I feel like a lot of old people depend so heavily on their children or their grandchildren, and it doesn't always turn out
Yeah.
to be that they're going to look after you, you know?
Coming from a much older person's perspective.
67 years old.
He speaks.
Young.
No, because I wanted you all to say that because this is a very real thing.
Yeah.
There is a sense of loss when your family grows up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can't fill that void. You try hobbies, you try this, you try,
Yeah.
but you can't fill that void. And the only way I feel you'll fill that void is if you get involved in charity and keep helping, because your whole life has been about helping
Helping
people
something,
achieve.
yeah.
And you need, a lot of the elderly need to keep that going. And the only way they can do that is to get involved in charity.
Or a
their
community of
or a
some
community.
sort, yeah.
Then their life has a meaning. The minute their life has a meaning, what comes into their head is, when their life has no meaning, what comes into their head is, what's the
am I
point?
here?
Nobody
Yeah,
needs
why
me
am I
Yeah,
here?
What's the point?
But I don't think that
Absolutely.
should be first priority, though. I think the first priority should be, because you're talking about
Health.
like health should always be
Obviously,
first
obviously,
priority.
yeah.
Because you have
Yeah.
no health, you can't help
You
other
can't help
people.
others,
Yeah, but
right?
on
Yeah,
top
that's
of that,
true.
I think he's
So-
assuming that if the person is healthy, able, and willing,
Yeah.
then community
Yeah.
work and
And
charity.
very
But you know, we
important.
always talk about purpose, right?
Yes.
And I keep on thinking about this, right? Purpose is very important.
Yep.
But if you take that as the be all and end all, it's not going to end up well either.
Well, I think
Ev-
there has to be a nice balance between health and happiness because you can be happy with no purpose. Some
Yeah.
people do fine, right?
Yeah.
But some people need the purpose to feel
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, but isn't the end goal of like the Maslow chart and all that the
Yeah.
purpose where you give
the
back?
meaning of life. So
It's
health, I
self-actualization.
yes, that's right. But health is the basic. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the basic
You have to
like
have that.
Foundation. It's your
And
foundation.
we're
Yeah.
not asking like the seniors to go out there and do like hardcore workouts.
No.
What? No,
No.
but top of mind. So things
Keep
that
busy.
things that keep you healthy. You do it. Do a little bit of moderate exercise and stuff like that. Watch
Yep.
your diet. Don't consume things that's gonna damage your body.
Yeah.
Things like that.
But like what Dr. Jerry says, that is the basic. Everyone
the
should be
base.
doing that. It shouldn't
Yeah.
even
That's the
be
base.
on your mind.
But it's
to-
not. But I
it should-
feel like the
yeah,
older
it's not.
people feel like, oh yeah,
I can do anything.
Anyway, I'm old already, so it's okay. I'm just
And I've
gonna,
lived this long, I can eat
just gonna
anything I
do
want,
anything
right?
I
Many
want.
of you have got this backwards. They're doing that because they have no purpose.
Yeah.
They have no reason
They're
to look
feeling
after
like-
themselves.
yeah.
There is no reason for them to look after themselves. A lot of the older people need a reason.
But because they're
We're-
not
we're think-
selfless enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're thinking like we think.
Selfish.
It's not
Selfish, not
they're-
selfish.
they're
No,
not-
but I also know of a lot of people who are, who feel like, okay, my purpose is to help, this organization or that organization. But at the end of the day, they're smoking like
They
crazy.
forget
They're drinking
themselves,
like crazy.
yeah.
They're eating like crazy. They're overweight. This is what I mean, you see. It shouldn't be like that. It's, suicide.
Yes, and I think we've been talking quite a bit amongst ourselves on the Big Show TV. Love Dr. Jerry to jump in and kind of like wrap up what we've been trying to say.
Are we actually on course or are we off from what we've been saying?
on course, and then you totally went off. I think we were looking at the last few years.
What's
I know, right? The last few years where COVID hit and these geriatrics was feeling very, very displaced, I would say. Yeah. So, for example, one of the cases that came to me very desperately because the GP was calling me, it was because he suddenly it wasn't the purpose. Was it a purpose? He would meet up with his friends every day. He would go for his basketball every day, and this is the 80-plus-year-old man who is still very fit, hale, and hearty. Given the little medical conditions here and there.
Did you say hottie?
Hearty.
Hearty.
I thought I heard you say hottie. I'm like, oh,
For a lady, right?
hottie. Still a hottie.
Anyways, he came because he said everything is cordoned off. I cannot meet my friends. Social distancing. What do I have to wake up to every day? I lost my routine. I lost my friends. They don't belong to the generation to
Call or
do like
text.
video calls. Not even call, but video call.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so they're not used to it. They love to sit. So he would play basketball, and then after that sit at the kopitiam, and then have a
Chatter,
chat
yeah.
until late afternoon, where he'll go back, and then that
He
is
had a
his day.
routine,
He had
yeah.
a routine. He completely lost it.
Yeah.
So he wanted to spend the rest of his time this way, and he said, "I've lived so long, and I look forward to this, and this is taken away." So.
Yeah.
You know,
But you see, he's done his very best to stay, as you mentioned, to stay fit and what.
Yeah.
And life dealt him this
Yes.
this blow. So so he can just think about it and go like, this is not my fault.
Yeah, but
But
not
what I'm
everyone
saying-
can.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
but what I'm saying is there are many also, right, who end up in a certain predicament because it is something that they've been doing their entire lives. It is their doing that they have come up with perhaps maybe this sickness or this disease because their entire lives they've not been taking care of themselves.
You're stopping short of
You know
saying
what I
it's
mean?
their fault.
It's their fault.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Like they dug
that is
their
different.
own- their
then you
own
have
hole,
then you have
basically.
this regret. You see, like, like I'll never forget the Yul Brynner, TV ads when he was diagnosed as having lung cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctor said, he only had months to
Yeah.
live. There were all these TV ads that were going around the world in theaters as well. Yul Brynner telling everyone, don't
Stop
smoke.
smoking.
smoke.
Right.
Wow.
If there's one thing I regret in my life, it's
Yeah, I think I
smoking.
remember something
Yes.
vaguely
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, well, I just wanted to say that.
Right, okay. Okay, let's go back on the Big Show TV and continue this conversation about suicide with Dr. Jerry.
All right, it's 8:15.
Kiss 92 Time Check brought to you.
Okay.
Okay, I've said my
any,
piece.
Does it have
Okay.
anything to do with suicide, though?
I mean, it's a very simplistic way to put it. You know, it's maybe part
I'm a simple
of
man.
You're a simple person. Yeah.
Well, I think also being able to simplify your problem and looking at it that way, being like, okay, maybe I've dug myself a hole and I need to get out of it.
Yep.
I think it's one of the hardest things that anyone will be able to
Yeah.
see. But I also think that it's not, and like, not everyone's mentality, and also not a lot of people have that created a routine like that, you know, in life, or a negative routine. But I don't think that this gentleman's routine was necessarily bad.
No, of
but it
course
is
not.
something that he's leaned on, you
Yeah.
know,
for a
And
long time. Yeah.
I think also, I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but my grandma, she used to play mahjong, you know, keep her brain
Busy,
active.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she loves playing mahjong, right? Don't need to play for money, just play to like have conversation with your friends. And, you know, it takes a while. So she has a whole day where she plays. And then slowly, one by one, her kaki all
Passed away.
yeah, because she's
away.
92 this year, 93 this year.
Right.
And so, you know, slowly, because I used to live with them maybe like 10 years ago for like 2 years or something. And I could see just she at that point only one kaki had gone.
Yeah.
And she was already very upset about it. So I can imagine, you know, every time I offer, when I have the time to go over and play for an hour or two, she's so elated and excited about it.
Yeah.
But also I think something that affects the older generation too is that their friends are all
dying.
leaving, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a big part of
Yeah.
what makes
So
life
it is-
almost
But I
not
mean,
worth
at
living.
that
Yeah, it's
age, you know,
tough.
in her 90s, you're
Yeah.
saying, right?
And is there something we can do, like to create
Spend
activities
time
or
with
talk?
them.
Yeah, what's the best thing to do with older people to make them feel more fulfilled? I
Basically,
guess?
your definition of older people is the 90s. My definition of an older person would be in the 70s. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
To me, a person in her 90s or his 90s, if they're starting to think about, you know, the fact that, okay, I
Life.
you know, life, I've kind of had, you know, a full life now, and it's coming to an end. I think it's natural. I'm not saying that they should take their lives, but I'm
Yeah.
saying at 90, can you imagine yourself at 90? I mean, how many of us will reach 90?
I go on.
When, you see, many people say, no, I don't want, right? But when you hit 90, and if you have that kind of mentality, like, oh, you know, the end is near and I'm feeling a little down, I think that's natural. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
But I
and I
would-
don't think that they would take their lives. I think
Yeah, I
we're
don't
looking
think
at
so.
some
Suicide
you
is
know,
different.
a group of people that is very, very different, and we have something called geriatric suicide. So, you know, on the clinical disorders, those with mental health issues, those with depression, those with anxiety, in some of the borderline personality, schizophrenia, they also can be vulnerable to suicide because, you know, the disorder takes over. I think when I was younger, you know, in my undergrad, and I was writing a paper, and we were looking at what caused suicide. So it's not only the clinical disorders that cause suicide, it is also impulsivity, when people are very impulsive.
So they haven't
Financial-
thought it through properly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Financial circumstances and also substance abuse. So growing up, I was that era where there was a lot of secret societies
Yeah.
and glue
Glue
sniffing.
sniffing,
Oh
yeah.
my
Yeah.
God, drugs.
The 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
That was way before my time.
And you know, you hear stories and police coming in and say, you know, you hear the examples they give of people glue sniffing on the staircases,
Yeah.
and then they walk up and then they just fall over the parapet, and they don't intend to die.
Yeah. Unintentional, yeah.
But that would be substance abuse can also lead to.
But that can't really be considered
Intentional-
suicide, right? Because if they
But you crossed
unintentionally,
it.
yeah,
It's
but
unintentional
but
suicide.
not
maybe?
everyone who does drugs ends up.
No,
You know
not
what I mean,
everyone.
like that.
Not everyone, but it is a self-injurious behavior that leads to death.
It would certainly
Right.
lead to depression, I think.
I think depression is something that
Yeah.
aids it, if
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Are all people who commit or decide to commit suicide depressed?
Uh,
A lot of them, or
so the controversial question about euthanasia. So Singapore doesn't have euthanasia. So in the papers yesterday, we saw that Canada will allow people with mental health conditions like depression to have euthanasia
That's a bit extreme.
for next year. Yeah,
Sorry,
People
what
with
does that mean?
When you can decide
Yeah,
to
legally.
legally
Kill yourself.
end your life. So I don't know. Would that be counted as suicide?
Yeah,
for
I think
you?
so.
Of course.
I think so. Yeah.
Choosing to take your life.
Euthanasia.
Yeah, it's choosing.
Is
to take a-
euthanasia suicide?
How different is it though? I mean, if you're injecting yourself or however it is medically done, how different is it from say
ODing
or jumping off a building or hanging yourself or
So it is very controversial. I mean, we all have our opinions. Some of them that decide to go for euthanasia, they have been struggling with medical conditions for a long time. So typically, they say, I have enough. I'm in too much pain.
Yeah, like
Please
chronic
let me
pain.
go.
Yeah.
But how will it be-
I will say I'm pro euthanasia.
How will it be done? Is it done under a doctor's watch?
It has to be.
But does the doctor make the shots as well? Like call the shots, say, okay, you're qualified for
does someone
euthanasia
have
because
to
not everyone can just
qualify
go,
them?
you know?
Okay, I'm not a
You
medical
don't. Yeah.
doctor.
No, but based on what I've read,
yes,
like in the
based
past,
on-
euthanasia, there's some countries that have legalized euthanasia.
Yeah.
I can't remember which country it is. But you actually go to a facility, a medical facility,
But how does
and they inject you.
But doesn't
And
the
you just sleep.
medical
There's a
facility
whole- there's
have
a-
to say yes or
There's
no?
a whole interview system and psychological test that you go through before this is even considered.
Yeah.
And then the final call is the medical professional,
The
right?
final call is the result of your test, yeah.
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 Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
You know how
I
we
don't-
always say, I mean, when it's time for us to go, the best way would be like, okay, just, sleep and
sleep
just go.
and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
but it is your own life.
Yeah.
And I am for people deciding on how they should handle and deal with their own lives. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
We do know some of them that have attempted, and they say that, they are in so much pain. So when I say these are the mental health clients that I see. So those with depression, those with, struggling with their mental health conditions and very severe conditions, and they feel too much.
Yeah.
What do we do if we know of someone who's thinking of taking their own lives? I mean, how do we handle it? Are there things to say or not say?
And is there a number? Maybe we should
There's
keep
an
on
SOS, I think.
reminding
SOS.
everyone about the number.
yeah.
SOS,
It's just like
yes.
4 numbers only or something like that, SOS.
I think
it's
there's
once-
more than
It's
that.
okay. I'll Google
you
this.
Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys go on. Keep
so
on talking.
how do we deal with someone if we know that they're thinking of ending their lives?
Interestingly, when I was thinking of doing this session today, on just over the weekend, because I handle a crisis number.
Oh,
over
right,
a
okay.
weekend, this particular lecturer called and he said, and he was sounded so panicky, right? He said another of my student actually called and say,
So, Dr. Jerry, we're actually talking about quite a serious topic about
Yes.
suicide. And I asked
Yes.
you on the Big Show TV, how do we deal with someone if we know that they're going to try and take their own lives?
and I was sharing, one of the crisis calls that I received was a lecturer calling for some advice because one of the students actually alerted him to another student that was contemplating suicide. So he couldn't reach the particular student, so he was quite desperate. So what we want is to, in situations like that, to expand the resources, the social resources, because if it's a student, there may be other people that know of the situation.
Yeah.
We are all connected via all the social media. Check all the social media. Make sure that they are safe. They are still engaging on it. When they stop engaging, we start to panic because they are usually on their WhatsApp, their Telegram, their IG, their
Something, yeah.
Twitter or
But
something
do you
or
go
other.
to them if you can? Like physically, do you be
Yeah.
with them?
So we want to know who is with them. Yeah, so you don't need to rush to be with them, but you need to know that someone is with them and someone can keep
Capable,
them
yeah.
safe. Yeah, and keep an eye out for them. I mean, if let's say you really, really cannot manage, or you can't keep the person safe, bring the person to A&E.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
what if you
Yeah.
are the person that's with them? Is there something like, do you just watch TV or do you want
Yeah,
to
what do you
talk?
keep
or
with them?
Make
what's
sure that the
best?
person is within your eye shot.
And but what
that
do
you
we
can
do? Just
see.
But
watch.
do you need to keep them engaged?
Yeah.
No, sometimes they are depressed. Sometimes they are grieving. Sometimes they feel whatever emotions that overwhelm them. So
Yeah.
you,
So
you
just be
don't
around.
need to talk to them.
Just be
Or
around.
you can ask them, would you like to talk? And if they say no, please don't bug them anymore.
And don't be
Okay.
annoying.
Yeah,
Don't
okay.
be-
Yeah, I have a friend whose mother-in-law, took her own life.
Oh no.
Yeah, and in the most horrible way
Oh.
as well. She just jumped out the window.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I just found out the number, 24-hour hotline, Samaritans of Singapore, 1-800-221-4444. That's 1-800-221-4444. And this is an interesting...
The four numbers I was saying, right?
Yeah, so if you were to just Google SOS hotline, there is this. I don't know whether you guys can see it.
Wrong camera.
Oh,
No,
oh,
can't see. Can't
okay.
see.
Yeah.
Cannot.
Okay, look at this.
Help
So
is
for people who
available.
are maybe on the verge
Yes.
already, and,
You can
and they don't want to
speed
key in so
dial.
many numbers, or they can't find a number quick enough.
Yes.
There is just one big kind of
Button.
to press.
1767.
Yeah, 1767. The moment you hit that, you go straight. Someone will pick up the
So
phone.
what do people have to Google for that? SOS
Just
Singapore?
SOS hotline.
SOS
That's it.
hotline,
And
right.
this is the first thing
I
that
think it's all the same number, so you can just
1767.
1767.
Yeah, but you can also call 1-800-221-4444. That's
Yes.
24 hours a day.
Yes, please call them. They are there online, on site, and they will answer your call.
And I like what it says immediately at the top. It says, help is available. Speak with someone today.
Yeah.
Once again,
Yeah.
the number is 1767.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think that's very important, right, Jerry, that people talk
Yeah.
to someone.
Yes, they
you know,
need to talk. They need to share.
They
Yeah.
definitely do. And I think many people talk to their friends, and sometimes their friends are not the best people to
No.
talk to. So why not just give this number a call, 1-800-221-4444. I'm sure they'll keep your call confidential and
But
private.
and also just I
Definitely.
feel like people need to not be ashamed if that's the place that you're at. We live in a time where we know too much.
It's
at
easier
any
said
one
than
point in
done,
time.
though.
No, you
Oh,
see-
for sure,
Easy,
for
yeah.
sure.
People are ashamed only because of the way society looks at you.
Yeah.
It's not the person that needs to change. Society
Mindset.
needs to change.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
we look at people when
Yeah.
they go to a psychiatrist, when they go to a psychologist.
Yes.
It's how society looks at them. I don't see why that person has to change.
Yeah.
No,
it's
not at all.
society that must change.
Yeah.
But what I mean is to normalize the idea that
Yeah,
you
of
can
course.
sometimes not feel okay, and
It's okay
that's
to not be okay.
Exactly.
It is okay to not be okay.
So
Remember
if
that.
you need to call someone to talk, there's nothing shameful about that. You're not losing anything. It's more of you're doing something for yourself to be better.
yeah,
You're
gaining in
Yeah.
all ways.
Definitely. Okay, Jerry, on the radio, thank you very much for being with us.
No
Thank you so
worries.
much. We'll continue to talk a little bit more, on the Big Show
On the
TV.
Big Show
but
TV,
but
yeah.
your last words before we go to the Big Show TV.
And this, I've got permission from a mother who's lost her daughter just, and the daughter left a note to the family. And the note says, it's a very short one, to everyone that I have loved until my last breath. It's not your fault.
Oh my God.
Wow, you know how important that note is.
Oh,
That note. So
Thank
So
you, Dr.
important.
Jerry. It's like tissue.
wow.
Wow,
Okay.
okay.
We've been speaking to Dr. Geraldine Tan from the therapy room.